Makes a difference.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, there we go.
Boom, we are live. We got to believe 110. 4 games up. 4 games up. Just keep telling yourself that 4 games up because this was a very, very Metsy weekend right now. So we are going to chill out. We're going to take it easy. We're going to pop a nice fresh Coors Light and get through this episode because we're in Panic City right now. We're in Panic City, Kevin.
You might be in Panic City. I'm nowhere close to Panic City.
I am speaking of the general fan base. I am in Rational City. That's where I live now. I live in Steve Cohen land. It's basically its own utopia. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm in the penthouse of Cohen Tower in it's the capital of it's Rational City in the land of calm the fuck down. Okay. That's where I live.
And that's why we are going to enjoy our time here. We're going to slow down summer because Coors Light is the official beer of slowing down summer because as the beer that's made to chill, we want you to savor every second of summer. So get Coors Light in the new look delivered straight to your door with Drizzly or Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/believe. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Everything is going to be all right. Because I'm telling you, if I had to guess, the this is just based on Twitter, and Mets Twitter is infamous for being sky is falling. I feel like we're have 70% of the fan base is straight up going bananas because we had the deGrom news, which kind of just completely bungled the Javy Baez news, followed by obviously losing 2 or 3 against the Reds, and then the 5 p.m. Kumar Rocker deadline hung over our head, and then it's just and Passan, I think, tweeted out around 2 o'clock, hey, they're not going to, they're negotiating, it's not going to happen. I didn't know if that was, a Boris leverage thing, and then 5 p.m. comes, Kumar Rocker, not a New York Met. So we have a lot of stuff to cover today on the podcast.
There's a lot, and there's some bad things to talk about, but there's also some things that's calm the fuck down. I woke up this morning, woke up early in the 6 o'clock hour, and all of a sudden I'm getting tweets saying that our good friends over at WFAN are talking about me, Gio and Jerry. Jerry was filling in for Boomer, and they're talking about how I'm too positive. So I call up. I mean, I'm trying to ease into my day, Clem. I'm trying to, have 3 or 4 bowls of cereal like usual, find some 1-minute man nonsense, just ease into it. When I wake up early, I can. I
thought you were going to say you're popping a Coors Light. I thought you were going to say. I was like, no, we don't have to say that, Kev. We don't have to.
It could have been if it wasn't for these fucking guys. I call them up. I said, all right, let's talk about it. Gio introduces me, that son of a bitch. Gio's so I wake up this morning and I see that disgusting Twitter feed from KFC. I want to unfollow the guy. It's not like him. It's gross. It's nauseating. So we welcome him to the program now. So I'm talking to these guys, and I think I've just, They think that I'm being too positive, and they think that it's a shtick, and that I'm trying to combat people like Frank and speak against the people who are overly negative. And it's really not that, man. They said, okay, if it's not that, then what can we, what accounts for your change? What changed? What do you mean, what changed?
Everything changed.
Everything changed. Stephen A. Cohen came into our life and changed us for the fucking future. And I think what it really boils down to, and we'll talk about the nitty gritty in a second, but the big picture, what did you expect coming into this season, Clem? Did you expect to win
96 wins? You're the wrong guy to talk to about that right now.
Maybe you're the wrong person to ask. But if you came into this season expecting to win the World Series, expecting to run away with the NL East and win by 15 games, then I can understand that you are upset and angry right now. I also would then say that you're a fucking asshole. You're a lunatic and you're delusional. I expected that we were in year 1 of Stephen A. Cohen's regime. We are basically in year 1. No, I don't want to say year 1, but within the first 2, maybe 3, depending on how you kind of count these years, of this core being together. This is the beginning of this regime. And yes. we're getting into the years of its prime, if you will. We're coming up on the seasons where it's okay, now it's go time. This year, I never expected to really contend for a World. I didn't think we were going to go toe-to-toe with the Los Angeles Dodgers, okay? I didn't think that we were ready for that. So I expected to hopefully win the division. And, every time you would talk about 96, I would always be like, I think you're a little crazy, but I would go along for the ride to, for the fun of it. But I expected like high 80s, low 90s, and that would be, hopefully enough to get in the playoffs or win the division. And so that's kind of where we are, man. And it's been 4 games for fucking near 4 months. So all of the fussing and whining and crying is theoretically for nothing. And I know that now, when you want to really break it down and speak about it, there's been a lot of underachieving, and there's been a lot of wasted opportunities, and there's been some ugly moments. But like it's what I expected from a team ravaged with injuries. It's what I expected from a team that is kind of turning the page on their old Loserville structure and aura and reputation. And so I just don't quite understand any outrage or Panic City or counseling. It's like we're up, and we're up by a decent amount for a long time, and we're doing kind of what I expected to do. Is Lindor a disappointment? Yes. Is Pete, Pete since the home run derby and all-star break has been electric. First half, was it like underachieving? Yes. Are there a lot of things that are, underachieving? Sure. But for every one of those, there's an awesome story. There's a Taiwan Walker breaking out. There's Marcus Stroman pitching better than he's ever pitched. For every major star that's underperforming, you have the bench mob far overperforming, far exceeding what's expected of them. And then Jerry said to me, what was good about this weekend? It was uninspiring. It was boring. And I'm like, boring? He was talking about a 3-game sample. So we're talking about a small sample. So I'm talking about an even smaller sample size. But if you want to just talk about this weekend, one of those 3 games was an electric comeback with a walk-off knock. An amazingly entertaining and fun game showing grit and tenacity and comeback, culture. And so, yeah, we lost 2 or 3 to a team that I think is very much like ours. Also, 3rd in the league in the National League in runs, are a good offensive team. I just sometimes I think, and not even sometimes, I just definitely think all of these guys are still in Wilponville. They're loser brains Wilpon people who are still thinking that this is, the same old Mets. It's not the same old Mets. It's Cohen's Mets. And is it perfect? No. But is it much better? And is it entertaining? And is it right about where we should be on a 3 to 5 year plan? Like he said, yes. Done. Go ahead. Sorry.
That is coming from the mouth of the man who got me into Barstool, because I would go and you'd recap all the Wilpon nonsense, and I was like, oh shit, this guy finally gets what I feel as a fan, and that's what we've lived through for years. Those days are over. We are, and we'll get to the Kumar Rocker stuff later, because that kind of became the symbol of LA.
Yeah, because it's not perfect.
Yeah. But it's that series, that Saturday game between Baez hitting the home run, in his first game on the team, the bullpen getting through all that shit, Edwin Diaz coming in with the man on second, the wild pitch, and you're just like, oh, we're going to get fucked here. Gets out of it, trust the trumpets movement with another W along the way. And then just winning that game was awesome. And the Reds are not fucking shit. It's not the Pirates, who, by the way, took the Phillies down 2 out of 3 after they fucking had their little mini fire sale. So it's and it's up 4 in the fucking NL East yet again. It's 86 consecutive days in first place. I mean, the fan base is starting to get fucking spoiled here at this point, where I'm like, guys, what are you fucking expecting? And I think
how Clem spoiled already.
Yeah. When Steve Cohen came in and we were doing the Uncle Stevie stuff, we're going to spend billions of dollars, we're going to win every game. Everyone, we're just having fun with it. It's still fucking baseball. You're going to still lose 60-something games in a year. Even the best teams in the league are going to do that. Everyone just needs to chill the fuck out. Get your Coors Light and responsibly chill the fuck out. Thank God. And listen, thank God for that win on Saturday, because a clean sweep with all this other shit would have been an absolute disaster. But I never want to face the Reds again. The Reds are like, there's some shared DNA with us. There are fucking cousins in the Midwest. They have a giant baseball guy with a mustache. It's like Mr. Met's like fucking Midwestern weirdo cousin. There's a lot of weird shit with the Reds, right? And they have the Mets killer and Jesse Winker. Jonathan India. I loathe Jonathan India. I didn't realize. I think someone said he got picked. What?
Mama Clance nailed it. And I was like, oh, this is some blogging. This is why I have blogging in my blood. She said he looks like the guy from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, who in the red turban, who says, like, when he's like got him up against the boat propeller and he's like, my soul is prepared. How is yours, Dr. Jones? He's like the first line of defense for the Grail. It's like, and because he got the mustache and the black hair. I was like, that's pretty good, Ma. That's like a blog reference. I would have put that in an old school Barstool, New York blog. Yep. But yeah, he's a motherfucker. They're filled with good players who seem to just fucking stick it to us.
Yeah, and he drove me nuts. Winker, again, Jesse Winker on the like all-time like redemption, it's hard to hate tour. There was a dude with a sign. It said, Jesse Winker is a straight up bitch. I mean, that's an outrageous sign to carry in general. However, like just using the word straight up bitch, I do find that kind of funny. The guy gives him a fucking autographed ball. And not only is it autographed, they kind of like broke it down in SNY. It said like, hey man, happy to see like fans are back at the park. God damn you, Winker. God damn you being so fucking likable.
That story, man. So he said, great sign. I'm collecting them. I think what he does is he trades the sign for a ball. If you take down your shit talking sign, I'll give you a ball. And he writes, happy the fans are back. Great move by him. He's my Newman. I sit at home and I go, Winker. But I'll say this, and I don't want to sound like a fucking, soft dad out here. That kid, he was like 12 years old, man. Having a sign at the front that says you're a straight up bitch is a pretty like white trash move. I was like, Christ, where are your parents, dude? That's pretty aggressive. But I love Winker, but at the same time, hate him. The Reds are not, they don't have the best pitching staff, but they're third in the league in runs. They're a good fucking team. I mean, Votto, he almost broke home run records with how many bombs he's been hitting. And it's like, if we lost that middle game, but we didn't. We won. And we won in exciting fashion, in that, we don't give up and die fashion. And I just, even the trade deadline, Gio says to me when I called in this morning, he goes, well, what about the trade deadline? Like, okay, yeah, they got Baez, and I expect them to extend him for the future. But, that's it. And I'm like, bro, listen to yourself. We got so spoiled all of a sudden from a team that never made any moves, from a team who was never exciting, who always was cheap and boneheaded. We went and we got Baez, who solves our shortstop problem for the short term and might be a up the middle guy for the long term. Is an insane chemistry play. The amount of the chemistry that we're going to get from that move alone is great. For nothing. I don't want to hear these people who are just anointing Pete Crow Armstrong. Like, do we not learn our lesson with Kalenic that, like, not everyone is just going to go be fucking Mickey Mantle? Pete Crow Armstrong's 19. So, first of all, he was never going to be in the mix right now. And this team's window is right now. He's barely played because he's been injured. Nobody except for the fucking ultra nerds has seen Pete Crow Armstrong or knows what he's about. So, everyone just crowning him a prospect we shouldn't have given up. Like, fuck off. Now, all of that being said, the Kumar Rocker thing, that's a motherfucker. I mean, I am going to choose to trust because, again, we are now in a new regime. I'm going to trust Cohen and Sandy and everybody else. Zach Scott. I don't think Zach Scott does anything. I think Zach Scott is like hanging out, right? It's Sandy making the decisions. Steve Cohen tweeted something about like how he understands the value of draft picks and prospects, and he would pay for them. I'm just going to choose to believe that he must be his arm must be shredded, bro. I mean, we said all along, there's no, like, how did he even slip down to 10? There must be a reason. I think that the Mets went into that being prepared for some sort of injury. Some sort of injury had to be there for them to even get him. So I think they had to be ready for it. For them to just pull the plug on the whole operation, I'm going to choose to believe that it must be worth it. There must be a reason why, and it's not I don't think that's same old Mets. Now it might be, because part of me says, who fucking cares? Just give him $6 million or whatever, and we'll roll the dice. But I don't know. I'll be honest. I'm trying to do devil's advocate and trying to spin zone there. I think we should have just given this kid the fucking money and took our chances.
Yeah, and everyone says, well, what's just money? I mean, that's the one thing Steve Cohen has is money and this and that. And that's kind of what I say, though. I say the opposite. It's clearly not a money thing, because that's all Steve Cohen has. Like, he has tons of money, but it's like he spends it on, we have the crazy artwork and we have the shark and formaldehyde and all this kind of shit, right? But it's like, if it was a money thing, he would have done it. And the tweet was, baseball draft picks are worth up to 5 times their slot value to clubs. I never shy away from investments that can make that type of return. And you said again, Steve Cohen on Twitter, everyone's like, he's calling people investments, and people are losing their minds about that. And it's like, Steve Cohen.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, people are going crazy, man. It's like, that's why you just keep the tweets in the holster, Steve, because you're just going to get that. Like, that's just the world we live in now.
Agreed. But also, that's come on.
Yeah.
Give me a break. Like,
but
these are investments. These are, that's crazy.
But that's why I think that he should, like, if it was just straight up like a money thing, he would have definitely kept it. But I think the medical team, and listen, if anyone knows about how fucked up an injury is, it's the New York Mets medical team, right? Like, I mean, these guys don't put fucking guys on the injured list who then end up out for like the entire season after it's just supposed to be a day thing, day to day, week to week, month to month, 60-day IL. That's just the way the fucking story goes at the Mets. So if they're saying like that, like, you ever see, there was like an old picture from Internet 1.0 where it's like a X-ray and it's a skull and there's just straight up like a knife inside of it. Like, that must be what Kumar Rocker's elbow looks like. There's just a fucking knife hanging out of his elbow.
So here's what I kind of feel like that tweet cuts both ways. Like, first off, I read that to say that he's willing to spend the money on these picks because he knows they can be super valuable. So I would read that as sign him, then sign him, because he might be worth a ton. But I guess you can read it as like, they get, what's the compensation for that?
So that's the thing. So Kumar Rocker was the 10th pick of the draft. And before the draft started, I believe teams had there was some sort of like medical records that team had access to. But in terms of like getting your own doctors in, that didn't happen, right? So that's why the Mets drafted Rocker at 10. And then they were going to agree to a $6 million, signing bonus with him, which was like a $1.2 million over the slot, which is always the issues with slots and stuff like that with the draft, pending physical. Go through the physical. And there's a reason Kumar Rocker went to 10, right? Because everyone thought he was going, top 3, maybe even number 1. He slips to the Mets at 10. The Mets take him, which is something the Wilpons I don't think ever would have done. And if they did, they probably would have just been like, fuck it, we have to sign him to make the fan base happy. And then he'd be showing up with one arm, fucking, on opening day or whatever. We get the 11th pick next year, since they didn't sign him. So now it's just they drop a pick, they have the 11th, and then I guess they have whatever pick that they have following the season. So and that's the thing, is whoever these super nerds are in the front office, maybe that's what Zach Scott. Zach Scott, he has like 2 first names. They're just throwing him out there. He's just like a fucking mouth. He's a mouthpiece on WFAN or whoever is, interviewing the Mets at the time. And then maybe they're like, listen, Kumar Rocker with this injury versus whoever we get at 11 next year. They probably said that's a much better deal. And it sounds like they didn't even offer a number to him after they got the medicals, which is like a humongous red fucking flag.
Yeah, that's where I don't know what you're allowed to say, and maybe this is actually looking out for Kumar Rocker, because if that was me and I had my fan base chirping at me, I'd be like, do you want to fucking see the MRIs that we took? Because this kid's never going to throw another ball in his life. But then, you basically ruin his fucking chance of signing anywhere. I don't know. It's like, why is it so secretive? Why is it not being talked about? Why? I do think it's weird that there was no money offered. Why not just be like, yo, brother, we looked at your physical. Horrible. But we'll give you $1 million. And then maybe you're a miraculous recovery story. I mean, what is the worst case scenario? Is it Tommy John? Is it?
That's the thing. Everyone's saying Tommy John. It's like, and everyone, I understand. But then it's like, that's the thing. I think it could be worse than that, right? That could be the issue. And I think people are saying elbow, but what if it's shoulder? What if it's anything, Yeah,
I mean, I don't know what else. I have not seen anything else in my lifetime that's worse than Tommy John that's not from like a fucking, a car accident or something like that. I feel like, wear and tear type shit is you get surgery and then you come back. I don't think we're going to know, or maybe eventually they release some more information. But at this point, as a recording, we don't really know what happened. My thing would have been sign him, pay him something reasonable. Don't nickel and dime, and roll the dice, because he was, he's that highly touted as a prospect. Now, and don't forget, we're talking about who? Mr. Boris here.
Yep.
So Scott Boris is probably, I think he's overplaying his hand, because so what does he go back to college now?
So he goes back into the draft, and he's not going to go to Vandy. There, I guess I saw someone was blogging it before. It sounds like he's just going to work out for the year and re-enter the draft next year. And that's the thing, is everyone's like losing their minds about like the system. It's like, yeah, the system fucking sucks. The system's flawed. That's the whole thing about the baseball. That's part of the reason I was pissed off. I was like, I never give a fuck about the baseball draft because I don't care about college baseball. I mean, we're growing the game here at Barstool. Shout out Metsy, shout out Carl and the whole fucking crew that went out there. But I don't like, it's like half the time these guys go back to high school or college or whatever, and then they come back and then they end up on another team. They move up the rounds and all that shit. And then with Boris involved, it's like, I just feel like Boris doesn't give a fuck about, he's just looking for the most money. And you have Uncle Stevie on the other side. And I was like, I have to trust that Uncle Stevie made the right move here, or whoever the people in the Mets front office. And if you disagree, that's fine. We're not going to fucking know for years. So everyone could just be pissed off.
I had hope that he was going to like maybe come up next year. But then when I realized how injured he was, like, all right, even if they did sign him, probably not for a couple years. And I have to think that Steve Cohen, a guy who's openly saying, I have no problem paying money for good investments, took a look at that and said, because people forget, you become the baller you are with money by spending money wisely and using money wisely, not at reckless abandon. That's like the Wilpons. They didn't not spend. They, we had payrolls upwards of, 150, 60, 70, when at the time those were like considered really big payrolls. It was that we did it stupidly and recklessly and at times when we shouldn't. And so you just got to trust, and we'll find out in like 5 years who wins this argument. Until then, just put a fucking pin in it, because there's no sense in arguing it. As far as the here and now, I think a couple things. One, Michael Conforto. I mean,
that's the other thing too
about him that hasn't been said about Afghanistan. It's bombed out and depleted. I mean, the dude is playing as bad as you can in the contract year. And I think he's lost himself, like $100 million. And so guys like that, underachieving from Conforto, brutal. Pete at times this year, brutal. Lindor, brutal. All of the other guys, kind of breath of fresh air. Brandon Drury has been fucking Babe Ruth all of a sudden. But, when you need like your core guys to perform, and they either have not at all or have not like performed up to that level. The trade deadline. Baez, he's not Chris Bryant. Chris Bryant's a former fucking MVP. If Chris Bryant could have been had to the Mets for the 9th and 30th prospect, the way that he was for the Giants, I really think that the Mets should have done that. I as much as I love my guy JD, I think Chris Bryant's glove is better. His bat is better, a little bit better. And that probably was the smarter move to me. But Javy Baez has a Cespedes of the infield vibe to me, where it's like he's going to drive you crazy at times, but he also put the team on his fucking back. And if he's a long-term possibility, I think that there's a ton of value there. So that was my second thing. And then my third thing, Clem, can I just be, I think I said this in the group chat. Positive K is going on pause for a second.
Yeah, go hit me, kid. Hit me.
I've been fighting for you guys as Positive K all season. I've been fighting against the darkness that is Frank Fleming. I've been preaching the good word of Cohen and staying positive, not as a shtick or an act, but because I genuinely believe it. But it's time to be realistic for a second. If, and probably yes, he is, Jacob deGrom is out for the season, it's over. I mean, it's over. Like, I'm not going to throw out the big C. I'm not going to declare them dead or anything, because you never know. He might come back, and maybe we just need him for a couple starts down the stretch. But without him, It's over.
I can't even like argue with that. I said it a couple of weeks ago. Like if deGrom is out, I'm canceling the sport, right? I don't even like I won't even want to watch baseball because it was such greatness, such an important part of this team, and it's kind of like every time you could say, all right, the Mets and the Dodgers, right? It's like, well, we have a nuclear bomb as our ace, and then you just win a couple. We could scratch out games against their rotation, no matter how good it is. And yeah, they have a fucking sick lineup too, but like, there's no reason. Again, I think it was like last year, like they had a fight, like they were scrambling with the Braves, right? Like we could beat that team. Yeah, exactly. But it's just the guillotine that's going to be above our heads, and that's the thing. Like everyone's pissed about Rocker, everyone's pissed about the Red Series. That shit is fucking small potatoes for this season compared to Jacob deGrom.
Dude, maybe it's because of Baez. But I gotta tip my cap. I can't believe I'm about to say this, and it's proof positive that the regime has changed. I gotta tip my cap to the Mets PR because they just kind of slid this in. Oh yeah, by the way, Jacob deGrom's pushed back. Best case scenario is September now, and we all were like, "Cool, Baez." Well, we should have been. It doesn't matter that we got Javy Baez. The season's fucking over. What also does bother me a little bit about the trade deadline. No other moves really kind of sits with me. Like this was a team that had basically every area could have used an upgrade. And I thought for sure we'd have a big splash in one of them and then little bits, pieces here and there that they just didn't really do. And especially they had to know deGrom was already hurt. So like not upgrading the pitching there. I got crushed. I was fighting all day leading up to the Baez trade. I said, if the Mets didn't make any moves, I really would not have been surprised. And I just don't think this is the year to go all in. And so I was, if the Mets stayed pat and said next year's when we're really going for it and we'll revamp, I would have been totally. I did say that if it was a guy like Baez or someone that would fit in long term, then it makes sense. Then they'll probably do it. But I don't think this is the year for like rentals. And I think that especially knowing that deGrom was out, they had to be operating under that assumption as well. Like it's so hard. Like, don't you think that like Coleman and everyone's sitting there being like, all right, I mean, realistically, without deGrom and the way these guys have been injured and the way some of them have just been off this year, eventually we've got to we're going to fall out of the race, right? We're going to fall apart, but we just keep staying 4 games up. So they're probably like, I guess we got to go for it, because any other year, I think you'd say Lindor's trash, Conforto's trash, Jake is hurt. Everybody else has spent time on the DL. We've barely had enough time to actually mesh. This is just not our year. But when you look up and it's August and you're up 4 games, you have no choice but to compete. So they're probably like, what the fuck do we do?
That's like the Phillies and Braves. It's their most impressive trick yet, is they just keep losing on purpose just because they were hoping we would just mortgage the future to go all in on this season. And now they're like, all right, now we're going to try now that the deadline's over. You guys can't mortgage anything since we didn't. Again, like Pete Crow Armstrong, how many times does a guy with a hyphen in his name come back to bite you, right? Like, let's be honest here. I like saying, Cuckoo, that was going to be fun. And who needs a center fielder? We don't need center field. Who needs a center fielder in baseball? All we did was trade for guys that can't fucking hit their fucking weight for years and just try to maybe get some defense out there. So what's that for like another decade or so? Who cares about center fielders? But
I mean,
the deGrom thing is just over our head. I feel, and the thing is, like, we're always like, just give them the MRI. I feel like deGrom's gone under an MRI every single time, and it comes back clean. So either get a new MRI machine, or like that's why he keeps gaining miles per hour on his fastball. His fucking his arm is radioactive. He's just constantly getting MRIs. It's crazy.
I've never seen a player. Have you ever seen a player be this injured, on and off? He's either on like sitting out, or pitching like the best game you've ever seen in your life. Like it makes no sense for him to be as good as he is during a season. It's kind of a microcosm for the whole team.
Yes.
They have no business being in first place with how many injuries they have. Jake has no business being the Cy Young. He's probably like still the Cy Young favorite, and he's been out for half the fucking time. It makes no sense.
Jake leaves the game with an injury, and it's 3 innings, no hits, 8 strikeouts. It's like he's like one guy reaches base. It's not like it's not a Victor Zambrano where he's getting his tits lit up. Which, by the way, if Kumar Rocker's elbow looks like Victor Zambrano's when he just ran off the mound, that would make sense, right? Like that's one of those things where you're just
that was the first thing that came to mind. I was like, Kumar's got to be like Zambrano, like just holding it and running off, because that was the very first image I thought of as well.
But it's funny, like maybe the Mets, like they're like, listen, we have this Jake news. We're gonna wait until after the deadline if we make a move. It's the black jerseys at night, so all those fucking idiot fans, that's all we're gonna care about, which is true. Everyone loves seeing those black jerseys, right?
The black jerseys. It's so stupid. We'll do the ceremony. We'll have Fat Ray Ordonez out there, and we'll have Fonzie talking about God knows what, and nobody will realize that we basically announced our season's over, because Jake is like the one guy we needed down this stretch when all else is up in the air. Nobody knows what's going on. Everybody's injured. This season, early on, was same old Jake, where we didn't score runs for him. And then we got into a group where like we were winning, or like almost winning, like in every single game that Jake was pitching. And it sounds like, sometimes I think like, how can one pitcher derail a whole team? But, coming down the stretch where we basically, here's what I will admit. Although we're 4 games up, the pressure seems to be mounting. So like the walls, here's what it is. The walls are not getting any closer. It's not that the walls are closing in on us. The walls are staying put. It's that the temperature is getting ratcheted up, and that we're in that same space, but it is getting more pressure packed, and it is getting harder and harder to believe, like, are they really going to just keep up this act for 162? Like when you wake up and you see Guillorme is hurt and Nimmo's back hurt again. Guys, how long can this continue? How many injuries can we withstand and still be up? But then you look at the fucking scoreboard and the Braves and the Phillies lose again. And it's like, why do you think it's LOL Mets? Do you think that's why people are saying, oh, the Mets, they're not going to last. The Phillies or Braves are definitely going to win that division? Because as far as I'm looking at it, we're over 100 games in, and these guys the Phillies and Braves suck. So why are you giving them credit? I don't understand why everyone's convinced that these two teams who are under 500 basically are going to be like, oh, it's a lock that they're going to overtake the Mets. No, they suck more than the Mets.
And like the Philly, like for the Braves, it's like, no, Soroka, Achilles, shot, Acuna, out for the season. And like, that's the thing. I hate that the Braves had a fucking buy at the deadline. I just wanted them to sell. I'd be like, all right, it's us and the Phillies going head to head. The Nationals, I couldn't name like 3 guys on their team right now, right? Because I feel like they just traded everyone away with a pulse or an all-star appearance. So I'm absolutely like, again, it's PTSD for the Mets. It's the Braves always being there. It's the Phillies in, I will not say the years, but the early mid-2000s. Is
it? Can you say that they're there? It's like, yes, there's every chance 4 games can be erased in a fucking week, and there's every chance that the Phillies or the Braves could put it together. But it's like, why do they get so much slack, and the Mets are viewed as like, oh, we're dead ducks. We're just waiting. We're a dead man walking, standing knockout. Like, why them and not us? I really think that has to be like the LOL Mets, persona, where it's like, oh, they'll blow it. Because, okay, as bad as you think the Mets are, the Braves and Phillies have been 4 full games worse for a fucking 4 months, And I know, and I don't want to hear everyone's injured. I was looking at this graph. Granted, it was from the very end of May, so you've got June and July to throw in there as well. But it's probably only gotten worse for the Mets. They had the amount of wins above replacement they had on the bench they had a graph of like all the war of people on the IL. And it was the Phillies and Braves combined. The Mets had more than that. And so I think they've only experienced more injuries, so it's probably even gotten worse. So, like, yeah, everyone has injuries, but not like the Mets have. And yet and still 4 games up. So I just don't understand why everyone is so convinced that, the Phillies or Braves have to – they might, but why is it a lock? Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, tell me that, when the Dodgers and Giants series come, that's when everything's going to get corrected. But in a weird way, this team has played its best when it's, the challenge games. It's like the Padres series. Like, they win that series. Oh, the Brewers series. Go out and win that series. And it's like the Red Series is what it is. It's like you lost to the fucking Pirates. God knows what's coming up. Like the Marlins are never a fun team to watch, even with like their best pitcher win yesterday against the Yankees. I think Rogers is hurt, so it's like we have like an opening here where we should go down and just beat the shit out of the Marlins. But as Mets fans, we're not programmed like that. But I also will say this: we're only seeing our own tweets in Mets Twitter land. We're in our own echo chamber of, Panic Citi. We all follow a couple of Phillies fans. They're losing their minds every time. Like I see Smitty is like, up to going absolute batshit crazy. Their bullpen stink. The Braves fans, same kind of thing where they're just getting driven mad. Like I think it's just baseball. Everyone just loses their mind every game, every inning, every pitch is just so scrutinized over. It's just that with like the Rocker shit that becomes a big story, deGrom being, the best pitcher in baseball and just like disappearing from the season, to be honest, that is what kind of gets lumped on top of us as well. Sure. We got the Marlins coming up. We got the Marlins coming up in Miami, and then we come home. I think we got the Phillies at home, then the Nationals at home, the Dodgers at home. So we got a bunch of big time series coming up here. And this is the thing no one's talking about right now. It's going to be a fucking zoo there. It's going to be nuts. Did you hear that game on Friday night after the deadline? It was. I honestly, I had the game on mute and I just saw the crowd going crazy. I rewound the TV to see if there was like someone ran on the field or like there was this crazy thing that happened. And it was just people being hyped about the team, about the jerseys, I'm sure, about the deadline with Baez and all that kind of stuff. Citi Field is going to be like, remember the reason this podcast started is Carabas went to a Mets game and said, Kev, you got to start a Mets podcast. This fan base deserves it. They are crazy. They go nuts. And that was back in the Wilpon days where we really had nothing to truly root for. It's going to be an absolute zoo. And you guys got to go to a game. You fucking get the cup snakes going on. You have the chanting at the opposing team, all that kind of stuff. Everyone has to get hyped. You got to get TickPick. It's the original no-fee ticket site that guarantees the best prices on tickets to every game. Why pay more on other ticket sites where you get those same seats on TickPick for better prices? I call it the Uncle Stevie deal. That's what Uncle Stevie probably uses when he has to get tickets. It's the smart thing. It's for the people with big brains. TickPick is the only major no-fee ticket site that doesn't charge any service fees on any tickets to live games, period. So what you have to do is visit tickpick.com/believe today. You get $10 off your first order on Mets tickets or download their app and use promo code BELIEVE. So it's kind of a two-way thing. You're using the internet, the World Wide Web, like me and the old guy Kev over here do. Tickpick.com/believe. Get $10 off your first order on Mets tickets, or if you download their app, you use promo code BELIEVE. TickPick should be your first choice to buy tickets because they save fans money by never charging any service fees ever. I say service fees, that's a Jesse Winker thing. That's some, hoodwink, bamboozle, lead astray, run amok, and flat out deceive the customers. You guys got to get to the Mets game because I think the fans might be the X factor in all this.
Dude, they're great at home. They've been awful on the road. They've been amazing at home. There's a reason why. In addition to TickPick, we added 2 more Barstool at the Ballpark, so you can check those out. These were games that were overflow from the first ones that were either canceled or greatly restricted. So we had some people overflow to that one. Now we've opened that up to the public, so you can check that out as well. Down the stretch, it's going to be an electric factory. And if Javy is going to be hitting bombs and throwing people out at the plate, like I thought we got a real quick answer on like why Baez, because Cespedes was very similar. It's like, yes, Cespedes is going to play golf and strike out in ridiculous spots and throw the ball all over the field at times, but he'll also gun you out from the fucking corner. He'll hit a ball to the moon. He'll put you on his back and carry you through a month. And so if Javy gets hot like that, like let's not forget he was the shortstop when that team won the World Series. He was a big part of a winning team that was clutch in the playoffs. So have a little bit of love, man. I don't love the thought of it being like Lindor said, I want my buddy on the team, and that's why they went and got him instead of Chris Bryant. But there is an element of the chemistry. There is an element of he'll be a long-term signing. And so it should be like, listen, could the Dodgers and Giants like beat us in games where we have scrubs pitching and some of our starters out and water finally finds its level and it all catches up with us? It could happen. And honestly, if it ever does, I'll gladly be like, you know what? It finally happened. And, it was bound to happen and it did. And so I'm wrong. But it's also admirable to even still be, this much up in the first place. So just it's like, I just can't imagine when you're rooting, like when you're like talking shit about the Mets this year, you're talking shit about Brandon Drury and Kevin Pillar and guys like that, Zeke and fucking dudes who are like playing so above their pay grade. And you're not, you might think you're rooting against the Lindors and the overpaid guys who are choking, but the majority of it have been the dudes who are like so easy to root for, yet you choose to root against. And that's just a goddamn shame. The fan base is better than that, man. Like good Mets fans are great Mets fans. And I want Cubs fans to know that. Cubs fans have been motherfucking me. Everything I say, Cubs fans have been motherfucking me left and right. And I know you're hurt and I know you're just lashing out, but like Rizzo going to the Yankees, fucking that sucks. That sucks having to be like, if I want to root for my guy, I now have to root for the New York Yankees. But for Baez, for Javy, you don't have to do that. You get to root for us, for a team that's like the little brother who wants to win and always and has deserved to win. And we're not the evil empire. Javy fits in with his buddies. Like, hop on the Mets bandwagon and enjoy the ride because we're a good fit. We'll take care of him, and he'll be happy to be here. Rizzo and the Yankees, fuck that. Baez and the Mets, that's a duo that deserves, like, he deserves it. We deserve it. Cubs fans not deserve what happened to them, but come on over here and enjoy it because that's a match made in heaven. What happened to the Cubs, the fans don't deserve it, but the ownership does. The fact that Rizzo, Baez, and Bryant all hit home runs in their first game, and immediately it was like, look what we fucking got. That's the ownership. That's just like jam it down their throats. Baseball karma, sports gods just told you to fuck off.
And listen to me, Cubs fans. I've been asked about this multiple times by many Cubs fans, and I promise you, Javy Baez is in good hands here. I promise you we are going to love him. There's going to be the Franks who are going to freak out every time he strikes out, and Carl's already said he will slit Frank's throat if he comes at Javy at the first sign of trouble. But listen, he said, I will drive already because Frank was happened to be in Chicago when the whole trade went down, and I guess Carl – you might have just tweeted him because I know Carl was in fucking Iowa, which was a goddamn nightmare, having the entire starting 9 hyena campaign and then White Sox Dave just laughing at it in his face as his entire team gets ripped apart. But we'll love Javy Baez. We did it with Bartolo, right? We've done it with Dick Mountain. We are a fan base that can appreciate it. We were under fucking shitty ownership for years. That's the reason why we are so ravaged and tortured. And listen, I get it if like the scars of 2015 somehow didn't heal, even though a World Series came in 2016. But listen, if you're going to root for one of your guys, root for Javy and the Mets. Don't root for Rizzo. It's like ex-girlfriends, right? It's like Rizzo's now dating the guy with the slick back hair and the fucking Maserati. Yeah. You don't want that guy. Like, no one likes him. And he's always talking about rings he has. Like, dude, who gives a fuck about rings? You bought them. Who gives a fuck about that? The Giants, I'm sure there's some sort of like old Cubs-Giants rivalries from over the years since they were both pretty good teams around the same time, right? But listen, just like embrace the Mets. I want Cubs fans on our bandwagon. You know, if we're going to be on the electric chair, I want Cubs fans with us on that electric chair. We're going to love Javy. He's going to be his own electric chair at some points. But we talked about this on the text too. I think the reason that they probably went after Javy instead of Chris Bryant, I do think one of it was probably the Lindor factor. I think playing shortstop while Lindor recovers is another thing. But like Chris Bryant, his agent is Boris. They couldn't get Kumar Rocker signed with, apparently a fucked up elbow. So it's like, we're not going to re-sign him. I do think there's a chance that they made the move for Javy, saying we can get him on the team, hopefully fucking compete the rest of this year. And maybe he stays here because Lindor's here. Maybe I don't know if he'll take a discount or anything like that, but he fits in. He can play a bunch of different positions. I don't understand. Like, I think that could be the reason why. And listen, I wanted Chris Bryant more than Javy. I was saying that the whole time. But I do think that if they re-sign Javy, I think that then makes it the obvious reason because I think Chris Bryant's going to put himself out of the Mets range no matter what happens. So just because his agent's an asshole. That's basically the bottom line.
And you know what? Maybe not too though. Maybe in the offseason he's like, you know what? Go get him because anything who is revamping the entire fucking franchise. And just remember, right now. Still 4 games up.
Still 4 games up.
Gotta believe.
Gotta believe.